Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of CA Overwatch. We actually have some games to talk about today. A couple games coming up for the Toronto Defiant versus the Boston Uprising and the London Spitfire, which we will be previewing for you, as well as an interesting question posed on the Defiant Reddit today, which we're going to answer. So with that out of the way, let's just jump right into things. Chris, two big games today, this week, versus the Uprising and the Spitfire, and just give me your thoughts.
Okay, well, in case you guys don't know, these games are big because if we lose them, we are literally at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
We are going to be at the bottom of the table, and we're going to be posting mad tweets about changes that need to be made.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first game, Boston, I'm going to be honest, hot take. I like Beast's Ryan more than his Monkey, so I'm happy.
It's definitely a hot take.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot take. But because our hero pool is eliminated Winston, Lucio, Soldier, Sombra.
Yeah.
Because Winston isn't there, I like the fact that Beast's playing on it. But Fusions, Boston has Fusions,
yeah,
which is known for his Ryan play. Everybody knows he played in the UK for Ryan. He's played a lot of Ryan before when Boston was a little bit better as well.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit concerned about that matchup. The thing is, though, is that because the Lucio is banned, Fusions won't be able to play his typical, like, very aggressive Ryan play.
Aggro run, yeah.
It'll make it a little harder. So I don't know if, like, how Ryan's going to be using it. Is it going to be, like, Subsistence Ryan, basically the Ryan who, like, manages the shield what well enough works, like, kind of play around cover Ryan, or if the aggro Ryan's still going to be like a play.
Yeah, my initial thought of the whole meta being broken down was that I was like convinced for the first couple of days after we originally found out the hero pool that it was going to be on a brig, May McCree, Ryan Diva, which is what we saw from like a lot of teams like Florida, for instance, and I know Houston ran a little bit of it. So I figured that was going to be the comp we would see. I'm now less sure about that. One, because without the Brig comps, like the Brig Reinhardt comps. Sorry, not the Brig comps. God, the Orisa comps, like the bunker sort of style of play. I actually think is still pretty good, whether that be Ryan Orisa, whether that be Sigma Orisa. It always suffered because you could like Lucio speed boost into them and like disengage, you know what I mean? And they never really had that speed boost to counteract it. But now that nobody has Lucio, I'm actually a little afraid that you might not see sort of like a Atlanta Reign comp where it's like Lucio, or Orisa, Ryan, like a Torb, Hanzo, Baptiste, Zen, like kind of those kind of heroes that low-key might end up being the meta. But if you've been watching Contenders, there's actually been a lot of Ball Tracer, which I think is really interesting with the Brigida to pocket the Tracer and stuff like that. So I think if it actually ends up being like a ball meta, which I don't think it will be, I think that this actually fits us pretty well.
Well, I think because May is still in the game and Brig's still in the game, there's just too much stuff.
McCree. No, and I agree. That's why I'm confused as to why we've been seeing it in Contenders so much. I do think it's going to be a Ryan Diva Brigana composition. And in that respect, I do think we still have the upper hand simply because Boston's looked so poor. I think Fusions has great shot calling and he has a good Ryan, but I think he was better in Goats where, he could be really aggressive and there was so much sustain that his like minuscule mistakes weren't exposed as hard. Whereas now with 222, I think there's a reason why they've been running Axiom sometimes instead of him. I think Beast is going to be the better Reinhardt, knock on wood. And I just think that our like DPS play is better coordinated than Boston's.
Yeah, I just want to comment that if it is a ball tracer meta, I don't like watching those types of metas.
No, the Contender is a gong show for sure. It's Clown Fiesta, absolutely.
Yeah, I know it's a little of a gong show. It's also like especially because we don't have Game Center where we can watch individual heroes.
Yeah,
like I like seeing more groups of people so we can kind of like look at everybody, see how they interact. So like that's where like I enjoy watching Overwatch League. Is not seeing. I don't really like enjoy. Well, I do enjoy seeing like people like Logix pop off and like hit a 3K.
Yeah.
But I really do enjoy watching interactions between heroes, between teams.
With that team fight aspect to it.
So it's a little harder to follow when you have like those very flanky
Yeah.
off doing their own thing kind of heroes. But I think another good matchup will be kind of like Color Hex Logic.
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I think Logic's going to step it up. Like I know Color Hex, he does have his moments, but he is a little more inconsistent than Logic's.
Yeah, but they've like Boston switched it up now where they've been playing Color Hex a lot on the flex DPS role, and they've been running Jerry as their hit scan.
Oh yeah, Jerry.
So you might see actually like a Surefour Color Hex matchup go, and then it'd be Jerry and Logic's. Although I don't know. Boston's such a weird team. I don't know.
If it's a Surefour Jerry, like I have all confidence that Surefour's going to collab.
Yeah. Jerry's got some skill, but I know what you mean. It doesn't matter. Like I think this is you mentioned this before off the show. This really is like a make or break sort of game for the Defiant. I think if we can't beat Boston, like we legitimately need to make some changes. You know what I mean? Like if we're actually losing to Boston, Florida, and Houston 3 games in a row, like something has to change. So I think this is a really big game for the team. With that being said, like I do have faith in this team. I think on paper we're the better team. I think we've shown we're the better team across how we played versus when we first beat Paris and how close we played Philadelphia. We hit a little bit of a rough patch, but it's only really 2 games versus Houston and Florida where I think we lost that we shouldn't have. So I think it is a really important game to win. My only like concern about this whole online play, and I actually didn't mention it last week, was this was sort of a team that was built around like teamwork, right? Like how well the players work together, how well they're going to work when they're traveling. And then now everything's online. I'm like, shit. Would we have been better off? Like, imagine if this had happened last year. We could have had like Ivy and Yak. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So I'm a little bit concerned that initially I thought the online play would help us, but it might actually hurt us, where our strength was supposed to be how well we got along. Whereas a team like Boston, who has a lot of rookies who might have been nervous on stage, who maybe didn't have that team coordination, now that they're in the comforts of their own home, playing in their apartments and their PCs, might be able to pop off a little bit more.
Yeah, see, I would kind of think that too, but I think that because we've been doing so poorly lately, it's kind of like hurt our confidence, and now just getting back to online, maybe just a little bit like to get into like scrimming when they were clapping, like that may be a little bit better. I also I just want to also mention that if we do lose this game, like I'm like okay, maybe some changes need to be made, but I'm also like very concerned about like what signal the changing our roster would like show.
So early on, I agree.
Like it's like we're changing our roster. We're supposed to be a team that's so mentally together. We spend a lot of time building up these bonds with like the players, and then we just freaking switch it up.
Yeah. And
then we throw not only like we throw a competitive like what was supposed to be our competitive advantage out the window, by like switching up. So
I agree.
We're kind of between a rock and a hard spot if we lose.
But that's the issue, right? All this is predicated off of if we lose or not, which we like haven't even seen yet. So.
Yeah, so we realistically we'll probably win. Like,
what's your predictions? Let's get into that. You're saying we'll probably win. What's your predictions for this one?
I'd love to say 3-1, but you could definitely go 3-2.
Okay, I want to go the Torontonian inside of me, and I want to say 3-0. I think we mental reset, take a deep breath, think about the meta a little bit more. We got a better understanding for it, and I think we run Surefour Logics, which we talked about like 2 weeks ago. And I think we're just a better team. I think we just 3-0 Boston. I don't think it's that close. Maybe they steal the map. But I have faith in the 3-0.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Well, what about London though?
Yeah. Well, London's a different story. I think Boston is like objectively the worst team that we've seen so far. I think London's actually shown some pretty high highs when they've been at their best, and they look like a legitimate top tier team. And as much as I love Logix or Surefour, I don't think either of them are as good as Glister. And Benar looks like he's been out playing Nevik so far. So I have no idea how this is for me. Like if we lose against Boston, I'm actually down to make changes, even though I agree with what you said. Like you just can't lose to Boston. This is going to be a really important game because this is going to be like a kind of similar to how I saw the Florida Mayhem going, where it was like, this is a team that's in your stratosphere as far as like, can you beat them? You know what I mean? Like, are you better than London or are you not better than London? There's legitimate questions. Like, if we were playing the Vancouver Titans, it's like, okay, we're going to lose. Like, if you could win, that's great. That's a miracle, but you're going to lose. This is not one of those games. This game is absolutely winnable. And if you're going to see a big performance, it needs to come against London.
And I know we're kind of like once again talking hypotheticals here. If we do lose against these two teams, who are you changing? Are you going to change coaching staff?
I'd have to wait and see. Let's talk about that at the end, but I'd have to wait and see why we lost, right? If it comes out and we lost and like you'd have to try to like figure out what's actually the issue with this team. But I think the bigger so we'll deal with that I think next week if we do lose both of them, because it's too much for me to analyze right now after only seeing 4 games. But yeah, I think the bigger question is what happens if we go 1-1? Like if we beat Boston and we lose to London, it's like, well, it's like you didn't lose both of them, but like you're still not doing great.
I think it just depends. I think for that how we lost again. Like I feel like some of these games, it's kind of like we've been losing for silly reasons, like poor scouting, just kind of not having teamwork together, being like worth less than some of our parts.
Yeah.
If we like lose because of that, then I'll be like, let's talk possibly about changes.
Yeah.
If we lose because they just outplayed us, then I'm like, okay, like maybe that's just how it was.
Yeah, because London's a good team. Like they're not a good team. I shouldn't say they're a good team. They're a lower end team, but they're a good lower end team. Like I said, Glister's been really, really good. Benar's been really, really good. Obviously they have a really good coaching staff that sort of grills this meta in. I actually think this, if it is because Lucio's banned, I think they actually will lend themselves well to a slow style because of Pavane. So I do expect them to be really good at like sort of like picking their moments to shine and relying on Glister's hit scans. I said before, this is going to be another game where I think we need to switch some things up, run a Surefire Logics. We're just going to have to beat them on team coordination. Like we're just going to have to beat them on just like not making mistakes. And that's why I want to run Surefire Logics, because like I don't know. I think Surefire's really good at not making mistakes, even though sometimes he lacks that pop-off potential. I think he's really good at not making mistakes, and I think that's the only way that we can beat them. Not the only way, but I think that's our best way of beating them.
I agree.
Because this game's going to be close. Like I think 3-0 for Boston, but I think if we do beat them, I think it's going to be like a 3-2.
Yeah.
And I actually think we might lose. So, what's your predictions for this one?
The same thing, man.
Yeah.
I really, really, really don't know right now.
Yeah.
And all of what you said is valid. Like the thing is, we need to be team coordination. We have a good team coordination, but like we just haven't been doing that lately.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping these next two these last 2 weeks have kind of just
I think the mental reset's going to be big. Again, I think if we go out, there's a couple scenarios. If we win both these games, we're having a different conversation next week, right? No changes need to be made. The mental reset, it's all fun and dandy. If we lose both of them, like I would make a change like tomorrow. Like I don't think that's acceptable. I shouldn't say that. I'll wait to see how we lose them before I actually make that claim. But that will be really concerning. And then a 1-1 is going to be where you're in that tough spot. It's like, okay, we're not good, but we're not necessarily bad. So we'll deal with this stuff when we get there, because there's only so much we can talk about trying to preview them. I think these are hard games to preview because we haven't seen these teams play in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be online, a lot of unknown factors. With that being said, I'm going to say 2-0 Toronto Defiant. I think on both of them, I think it's 3-0 versus Boston, 3-2 versus London. What are your official predictions? 3-1 and
3-1, 3-2
for Toronto. We're both.
Yeah.
All right. We're representing Canada. All right. So quickly to close out the show, because we sort of talked about it previously, we're going to talk about it a little bit again now. Something was trending on the Defiant Reddit today, which I thought was interesting, and it was somebody who posted. I should have looked at their name. So if you've watched this and you're the one who posted, I'm sorry, but you can find it on their Reddit. They suggested that we sign Numlocked and as our sort of third tank to sort of shore up that tank line. Because for those of you who don't know, the Montreal Rebellion had a pretty rough start to the year, and they're contenders. And then they signed Shockwave, so they let go of Chain, they let go of Tanner, and they signed Shockwave, and they signed Numlocked. And Numlocked, who used to be the LA Valiant, is a really good tank. And since then, they've like completely turned it around. They came second in the Trials weekend. They've now 3-0'd Second Win. And Second Win won last week's contender. So Second Win is an absolute good team. And for them to get 3-0'd is really impressive. And now they're in the semifinals, and who knows, but they might win the whole thing for a week too. It just shows the difference that a really good main tank can make. And I thought it was interesting that shortly thereafter, all of a sudden, some Defiant fans are already trending on the Reddit that we should make the sign. So, Chris, I guess I can pose this to you or maybe answer it myself. Would you already sign another main tank? Not to replace Beast per se. I think the Reddit post was let Beast play Monkey and have Numlocked play Ryan and Orisa. I understand that doesn't necessarily go with your mentality of Beast is Ryan's better than his Monkey, but that was what their position was.
I think we should have had a third tank from the get-go.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea. Like, we have way more than enough DPS. Like, there are consistently people not getting DPS playtime. We have 3 support, like, one's 2-way, but, like, we have 3 support.
DPS, right?
We have
two.
What?
Mangachu's 2-way for our DPS.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, continue. Sorry.
we still have, like, 4 DPS. We have 2 tanks. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, like, when you have somebody under you, like, putting pressure on you, it kind of makes you, like, wake up and kick yourself in the butt.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. Once again, I think that they need to definitely spend some time to see how he does in terms of, like, mentality.
Yeah, because I actually think Numlock could be good for a guy like Beast. Like, Numlock, he's like 27. He has, like I said, he played in Season 1 with the Valiant. I actually think he played, I'm going to butcher this. The Contenders fans are going to kill me. I think he played for Envy last year, right? Was he on that Envy team that did really, really well?
I don't know.
And he was their main tank. So he's obviously had success. He's obviously talented. And I think his experience could probably help somebody like Beast who's still trying to figure a lot of that out. But I think we talked about in the show, it's too early to make a change like that, I think. At least in terms of replacing somebody. If you want to bring him in to like play Orisa, or you want to bring him in purely as like a precautionary reason, then that makes a little bit more sense. But I'm like, let's wait and see how this weekend goes. Yeah, because if we win both these games this weekend, then no one's suggesting that. No, I think actually you still could make that argument. That's my point. You could still say, well, 3 tanks is just like, that's just what we should have, just in case, which is valid. But I think that's part of their plan. I think there's a reason why we signed Numlock. I think they know that if it isn't really working out, it's something they would consider in the future. So my position right now is let's see how this weekend goes. If it's 0-2 though, maybe I'm having a different conversation next week.
I'm just to confirm, I'm looking at Wikipedia. He did play for Team Envy.
Yeah.
The one thing that's pretty concerning here is that this guy has literally been on 4 teams since LA Valiant. British Hurricanes and Team Envy.
Yeah, I know.
You just saw on NYYRIKKI Esports for 2 months.
Yeah.
And he's kind of bounced around a lot. I don't really like seeing that.
But that's the problem when you're like, I feel like when you're an older main tank too, it's like we know that older players have struggled to get into the league, especially Western speaking players. That's always been an issue, right? That's why you've seen some people retire in the summer. Just trying to make a name for himself. But again, you can't argue. Like, Montreal Rebellion last week looked awful, and they're contenders. They didn't look good at all. And then all of a sudden, now people are saying it's Numlock. Don't sleep on Shockwave. Shockwaves look really good. I watched their game versus the finals for the Trials Week 1. Shockwave's no joke. So it's not just, I think, part of it was letting go of Chain, I think, and replacing with Numlock, but Shockwave's a really good player, so.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, at the same time, it's been like a week, you know?
Yep. Okay. I think we've covered most of what we're saying today. I think both of us are agreed that's a little too early. Let's wait and see how this weekend goes, and we'll revisit it next week.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. So I think with that out of the way, we're all good here. It's a little bit of a, like I said, it's hard to, with the online and not seeing these teams for 2 weeks, it's hard to give a direct analysis. But be sure to check in next week when we actually have some footage to break down, where we actually get to see the Overwatch League in action online. And maybe where we get to talk about Toronto Defiant's newest pickup,
hopefully,
Numlock. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, do all that fun stuff, and enjoy.
Have a good one. Stay